Hello everyone. We are coming down to the home stretch, and what we're going to do now is I'm going to walk you through the PowerPoint presentation, hence your final pitch for your strategy, for your business plan. And so make the assumption that you're making this presentation to an investor, and it should certainly be impactful. So I'm going to walk through the slides, starting with the first one, where you have your name, class number, and your name on the slide. Very important to start out on the right foot. As we go to the next slide, you boldly put your company name up there. And if you have a company image that you want to insert, I want you to feel free to do that as well. Because again, this is going to be reflective of all the hard work that you've done. Next slide. Overview and purpose of your plan. Why are you doing the plan? Give us a short overview of the company. Talk a little bit about yourself, the owner, but keep it moving, keep it short. Remember, you have approximately 30 minutes in total, 20 minutes for presentation, and another 5 to 10 minutes for questions. So use bullet points, keep the slides nice and clean, and I want you to appear to be professional in doing your presentation. Then you're going to state your mission statement. What is the mission of your company? State it very clearly and succinctly, and remember, you should not be making any of this up. You will be drawing all your information from the business plan that you have prepared. Your vision statement. What is your vision for your company? Where do you see yourself? What is it that this company is going to do to improve humanity? Next, we want you to talk a little bit about the value proposition. Why should the people buy your product or your service? You have to entice them and convince investors that you have a product or service that is going to present a very good value proposition to your consumer and target market. So talk about the benefits of the product, explain the business value, and then talk about what you will offer. Then briefly go into your products or services. Again, using the bullet points and the information that you have presented to me already in your business plan, talk about your product or service. Remember, this is your opportunity to brag about that which you either have created or the services that you're going to provide, and you want to emphasize about how amazing it is that what you have to present to the investors. Then we're going to talk about the business climate and the gap or the opportunity in the marketplace. What's going on in the industry? Is the industry growing? Is it stagnant? Is it shrinking? And what are the implications for your business? This is also where you would discuss the gap in the market that your product or service will fill and how you will go about filling it. So you can discuss the problem that your product or service will be solving. And then on this one, if you have available, I want you to insert a source from a peer-reviewed journal just to support your assertions here. Then we want to talk about, on the next slide, we want to talk about the opportunity. What opportunity is it that your business is presenting? What does your company have? And what is the opportunity that you're going to fill in the marketplace? There should be a void that your business, your product or service is going to address. And we want you to briefly articulate what that opportunity, what void that opportunity is fulfilling. Business model. Now, you want to insert your business model here. Remember, you only have 20 minutes, so I want you to be brief. You will need to cover this very quickly. And what this will do when you discuss this in your own words, it will show that you really know the business that you are talking about, which is your business. Then we want to discuss the target market. What market segment is your product or service going to serve? And you want to discuss that. Again, using bullets with some degree of confidence so that the investor will know that you have a clear idea as to what target market your product is geared towards. Next slide. An extension from the target market, we want to understand, well, what is the size of this market? Is it 100? Is it 100,000? Is it 100 million? And what segment of that market will your business or product service occupy? So we need to know that, and this should be information that you've gleaned from the research that you've done. Next, your revenue model. How are you going to generate revenue? Remember, we always want to have more than one way to generate revenue. In the event things don't go along as planned, we want to make certain that you have some options that are available to you. So if you're offering a product or service, make certain that you articulate how you can generate revenue from multiple streams of revenue sources using your product or service. On the next slide, we want to talk about the risks. There's always a risk in opening up a business and providing a product or service to the marketplace. So we want you to talk about any risks that you may encounter, and more importantly, how are you prepared to deal with and handle these risks that you may encounter. Again, this shows that you've done research and you are prepared and you are ready to face any impediments or obstacles that may be in your way. Survey analysis. Now, I want overview information here. Do not list the survey questions and do not list the survey results. But talk a little bit about why you conducted the survey, who was the survey geared towards, how many people, information such as that. But again, overview information at a high level. Do not provide the specific survey questions or results. Competition. Important aspect here. Who's your competition and how do you plan on addressing the competition? Who are they? What is it that they do? Do they do exactly what you do? Is there a little bit difference? How are you differentiating your product or service from that of your competitors, particularly if you are a small startup company going against established businesses? We want you to have a well thought out strategy as to how you will deal with your competition. SWOT. You've discussed this in detail in the information that you presented throughout the class. We want you to talk about the strengths and weaknesses, the internal aspect of your company, and then externally talk about the opportunities and threats. Hence, a quick summary of the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats that your company will address. Then we want to talk about the marketing strategy. What's the plan? Business, your product or service, their features, their benefits, color, sizes, etc. Prices. What's the price range? Are you going to be a high-end product or service? Or are you going to be a low-end? We need to talk about that. Be specific. You're going to be online or you're going to use brick and mortar? Give us some insights as to exactly what strategy you plan to deploy in selling your product and service to the marketplace. Again, this is also where you would talk about the 4 P's plus the 3 additional P's that you will continue on this particular slide right here. Talk a little bit about the physical environment. Is there going to be a certain look or layout that you're going to provide? Is that something that will be consistent throughout all your locations? Will that be reflected in your online strategy? And then the process. We want to make certain that you have a clear idea as to the process that your customer will go through from the time that they initially encounter your product or service to the time that they finally make the final transaction and purchase the product or service from you. So we want you to understand the steps that the customer will be taking to purchase that product or service that you are providing. Then we want to talk about your team. A chance to blow your horn. Talk about yourself. What is it that you bring to the table? Will you be having colleagues join you? Will you be selecting them based on a skill set or some potential or financial resource that they bring to the table? You should have a team that will complement the effort in which you're engaging. If you're building a construction company we don't exactly want to go out and bring artists to the table. We want to bring people that have an engineering background that can possibly do cost assessments for you and can add value to your operation. So we want to make certain that we put together a strong team that will complement each other. Next, collaborations. Will you go it alone? Or will you take this as an opportunity to work with other businesses, other partners, as you build yours? Remember, we talked about the concept of bootstrapping, where you may not necessarily go out and rent an office space, and you may not necessarily hire all the skills that you are going to need. You may collaborate with friends and other professionals. So that's something that we want you to seriously consider and give some thought to. Resources. What are the resources that you have? First, you look at the resources that you have. Then you look at the resources that you need. And this is something that you want to be very clear in conveying to any prospective investors. Now, with respect to the startup budget, we don't want you to take the budget that you've prepared and submitted in your business plan. What we want you to do is talk about it from a high level perspective. We want you to say, for example, if you have a budget, overall budget over a 12-month period of $100,000, 25% will go to salaries, 15% will go to rent. So we want you to talk about it at a very high level to give the investor an idea that you know, in fact, what your numbers are and the type of financial commitment that it would take for you to get your business up and going. Next, we want to talk about the 12-month strategy. And you prepared that part in one of the last assignments that you had to do. Over the next 12 months, what are the steps that you're going to be taking on a month-by-month basis? Don't spend too much time here. Very briskly, go through a couple of months as an example so that the investors will have an idea that you have a clear and solid game plan and you have an idea as to what you're going to be doing over the first 12 months of your business operation. And finally, you make the ask. What is your funding request? How much are you requesting? And you could ask, you have a need of X amount of dollars to accomplish X, Y, and Z activities. You could even provide a very brief funding request and funds requested and use of funds so that the investor will have some idea as to how the funds are going to be used. And finally, you have a slide here. Thank you for your consideration. You always want to thank the people for taking the time to listen to your presentation, in this case, your pitch. So you want to thank them